Good night. Good night, good night, good night. Thanks for joining. Just awaiting our guest. How's everybody's day been going? You can let me know in the chat. Hey. All right. Good night.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. How has it
Right.
been over there today?
The weekend?
No, today. How was today?
Today was good. Today was good. Little busy.
Mm-hmm.
Little busy,
Okay,
little up and down, but that's the nature of what we do.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
You hearing
Um,
me okay, right? Hearing me okay?
yes, are you hearing me well?
I'm hearing you very well. I just have
Oh,
some little kind of light issues for some reason, but we'll go
mm-hmm,
with
mm-hmm.
the ring light for now.
All right, no problem. Okay, so we'll get started probably in about a minute or so. Just give one or two people to a chance to join. Feel free to share
Yes.
the live with your um, followers, and then we can go from there.
Right.
Hi, Mali. All right. Okay.
Good.
So you're missing. Oh,
Right. Good.
just checking. All right. All right. So let me just switch over. Good night, everyone, and welcome to the Make It Happen interview series. This is episode 5. And for those who don't know, the purpose of this series is to offer views, strategies, and stories that will encourage and inspire women to tap into their inner being, embrace who they are, dream bigger, dig deeper within. And I am Chamara Hollingsworth from Vision to Reality International, and I help women in business to take bold, decisive action. Okay, so today I have with me Debbie Jollie. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Is it Jollie or
Yes.
Jollie? Jollie. Okay.
Actually, persons pronounce it both ways, and I'm not biased in any way, so it doesn't. I'm okay with it.
All right, no problem. So Debbie Jollie is an experienced sales and marketing strategist and business development consultant. She's based in Trinidad and Tobago, and she has over 15 years of corporate global experience and over 5 years coaching and facilitating clients in Australia, the UK, the US, and the Caribbean. Debbie is also a part-time lecturer and workshop facilitator for the past 14 years at a number of tertiary institutions in Trinidad. As a business consultant, Debbie helps companies to grow by auditing their current marketing strategies and helping them to refocus on the areas that really matter, which will be strategy, operations, and people. Okay. Um, so, Debbie, thank
Yes.
you for joining me today and welcome. All right.
No problem at
And
all.
everyone feel free to stick around because there are going to be some giveaways um, for entrepreneurs and women in business throughout the session or at the end of the session rather. Okay, so Debbie,
Yes.
my okay, so before we get into the main interview, what I normally do is I have a game at the very beginning of the session.
Right.
And the first game that we will have today is this or that. So it's like a rapid fire session.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be saying two words, and you'll pick which one is your favorite of the two words. So, for
Okay.
instance, if I say cat or dog, then you would say,
Dog.
okay, purple or orange,
Purple.
day or night,
Repeat that one.
day or night.
Day.
Okay, so a burger or a wrap,
A burger.
mm. Heels or flats.
Flats. I'm very tall.
Okay, music or poetry.
Gosh. Music.
Okay, nice. Um, actual book or Kindle.
An actual book. And I feel
Girl,
guilty about that, but I like physical books.
why you feel guilty about that?
I feel guilty because I just think, we should move, we should do a lot more paperless things.
Mhm.
And so I feel that we should, there are things that you could naturally embrace. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I've been an academic. I just like to physically read. I like notes that I could feel and read and highlight. I
Mhm.
like a physical paper.
Me too. I actually think there's nothing like curling up with a good book and can't really get that from a Kindle. It's not the
Right.
same, you know? Okay, so my first question to you. What was the brilliant, audacious, dynamic dream that inspired you to start the business that you currently run?
Okay. So interestingly enough, I was kind of forced into entrepreneurship a little bit.
Hmm.
I would have said, I would say that I have a great person who inspired me, which is my dad,
Hmm.
and he has always been an entrepreneur. So somewhere inside me, I have always said that I wanted to do it, but it came initially in 2013 after having a corporate job for a very long time. The company downsized, and many employees were left without a job. And so I naturally said, listen, I need to, I always wanted to start my own business, and that's how I did it. And I think from then it's grown into
Hmm.
more of what I love. But it was kind of forced initially.
Okay, nice. Um, okay, so before we go on, I forgot to mention in the beginning, feel free to ask questions or drop any comments in the chat
Yes.
throughout the course of the night, and we'll be sure to answer them and make sure the comments are read as well. Okay, so um, so you're saying that outside of the fact that you kind of were thrown into it, that it inspired you because he was an entrepreneur as well. Do you have
Yes.
any memories of what it was like for him being an entrepreneur that inspired you to want to
Um,
become one?
I guess now I have a great appreciation for the flexibility it brings. For sure, I've
Hmm.
never worked harder in my life than working for myself.
Hmm.
But alongside the hard work, there's also a level of freedom. There's a greater level of creativity. Um, and to me, it gives you a better sense of purpose. And that is what I saw with him. I saw him work very, very hard. But I saw I saw that he had some flexibility, and I think that was always the draw. The draw was to be able um, to work, but to still manage the life in the way that you would want to manage it.
Okay. So, what would you say are three key differences between working for someone else and working for yourself? Maybe three things that pop up to you.
Um, right now, I think I have a lot of friends who are in corporate jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps the biggest thing is the fact that they don't feel happy or fulfilled. And I would say maybe when I was in the corporate world, maybe 10, 15 years ago, to me, I felt more friends and colleagues who had a more purposeful um, career and job. And so now I could mold that. So that's one of the things. I guess persons who are managers who are lucky enough to find a job and a career where they get the upward mobility, where they get things that fulfill them, where they get things that stretch them, that's great. But I'm finding now that my peers who are in a corporate space, they don't have that, necessarily have that sense of purpose. And I think as an entrepreneur, I kind of create that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, the other thing is the as mentioned, the level of creativity, because you are actually getting
Mm-hmm.
to navigate and create what it is you want in your own space, as opposed to fulfilling the objectives and the vision and the mission of a corporate job, right? So you do have that aspect, that's your own. And the other thing, I guess, is the flexibility. You know, I kind of, my son has seen me do a number of things, and I was able to sort of bring him on. You know, I don't know if I would have had that luxury had I really stayed in a corporate environment,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
Okay.
know.
All right. Let me stick a pin in that one so I can remember to come back to that. Okay. All right. So, talking back a bit, what would you say? Mm, hmm, why are you so passionate about what it is that you do?
Why am I so passionate?
Yeah. But
It's a
before you
lot of
say,
things.
before
Yes.
you go there, give our audience an idea of what it is you really do, because I would have just read a bit about it in your
Okay.
bio, but give an
Yes.
idea of what it is you do and then let them know why you're so passionate about it.
I define myself as a marketing strategist. I spent many years in the corporate space, managing either sales directly or sales and marketing.
Mhm.
So I help B2B firms and I help service-driven entrepreneurs really get clear in terms of what their business objectives are, and to clearly define both sales and marketing strategies and tactics to help them grow
Mhm.
their business. So that's what
Okay.
I do.
Hmm.
And then you
And why are you so
mentioned
passionate
what,
about it?
and my passion. It's
Mhm.
it's it has evolved. It's I think the passion is it varies, and the
Mhm.
motivation changes. Um, I feel it is a little bit of a legacy.
Mhm.
I saw my dad. My father was an entrepreneur my whole life, and I went into it without fear a little bit because I saw him do it.
Mhm.
And so I really get excited when when I'm working on a project and you make a particular breakthrough, or a client says, listen, this really helped and this allowed me to, close a new contract.
Mhm.
What is interesting is that I am working for different clients in different types of industries. It's always a learning experience. It's not like working in a specific job where you deal with perhaps the same product or service day in and day out, and the same type of clientele. So
Mhm.
it's always new and different, where I have to wrap my head around what kind of company it is, this size of firm, what are they doing, how can we deliver, how can we speak to their audience. And that is a lot of the drive, in that it is always new, and
Mm-hmm.
that helps with each new client, because the knowledge I gain with this one helps me to deliver for the next for the next client.
Okay, so it must be great having a business that keeps your mind engaged from point to
Yes,
point.
for
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you have been able to bring your son into the business. So, um, do you have outside of your son, do you have other employees?
Yes, I do. Yes. Well, he's
So,
not in it, eh?
mm-hmm.
He is 12, but I
Ah,
started
nice.
it in 2013. And
Uh-huh.
so, and initially I started a boutique, and he was there with me, and he saw all the inner workings.
Mm-hmm.
He has been with me on meetings with clients. He's been with me in school. He has been with
Mm-hmm.
me. He has seen the process, and
Okay.
in many ways, I'm glad, because that is exposing him to a kind of work ethic, right? So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna just say you need to do this. You need to do it because I am doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's why he's there. But no, I have other employees. I have two full-time persons, and then I have a bunch of different creatives based upon what I do that are more freelancers. So
Okay.
they come in when we work on specific projects.
Okay. All right. So, since you mentioned your son and the fact that he's 12, for those
Yes.
persons who are in business and have children at a young age, like for me, I have three young daughters. One is about to be 12, and then the other two are 6 and 3.
Wow.
How would you suggest that persons involve their children in their businesses as they go along? Any tips as it would relate to that?
How to involve it really it depends. It depends what you want to expose them to, and what is relevant or good at that point in time. I mean, my son has been with me on classes that I have had, and I've lectured
Mhm.
classes, and he might sit on his side, and he would that hasn't always been easy.
Mhm.
They don't always sit still, but the conversations you have after
Mhm.
help them to have an appreciation for what you do, and have an understanding of what you do. And I don't think all children are exposed to that, and I think it gives them a good perspective. It keeps them grounded. They have a sense of what mommy does.
Mhm.
So it really depends. It really depends on the child and the age, and to what extent you want to involve them. But I do think if you're a female entrepreneur, it is good, because it creates a bond between you and them, and
Mhm.
and when times are tough, they are supposed to be able to appreciate, hey, okay, mommy is working a little bit hard now, and this is why she's doing that.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Um, all right. So we're going to switch over now to the part where you were talking about you have some not entrepreneurs, some employees as well.
Yes.
So for solopreneurs, who actually want to own businesses, they don't just want to be in their business
Yes.
24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what advice would you give them? How would someone know when it is the right time to make a shift from being a solopreneur to
To
hiring,
having persons.
yeah, having the first hire?
um I would tell you this much. It is as much as I would have thought that I had so much of corporate experience, and I had experience in sales and marketing and operations and finance. When you get into your own business,
Mm-hmm.
it is at times very difficult. And I one of the main things that really helped me was investing in a coach. Since I've been in business, I've used three different coaches. And the one thing that they do is really help give you clarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many times you think you need to be doing this, or you think you need to be doing that, or you need to have this website done, and you need to do these things. But a good business coach who has come through and done a lot what you have done already, and where you can see that they have grown and they have all these, they've grown their brand, they are the best persons to invest in. And so I would advise any solopreneur to save one and to be able to strategically know when to invest in them. Once you're feeling like you've kind of plateaued, or you feel like I need help, or I need a sense of direction, investment in a coach is, I wouldn't, it's like the best thing. It's the
Okay.
best thing. It helps to give you a sense of clarity and what are the steps you need to take to move from here to get it to the next step.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, so
Mhm.
just a reminder to everyone, we're going to have some giveaways at the end, so please stay tuned, as well as feel free to drop any questions or comments in the chat that you might have for Debbie tonight. Um, okay, so one of the things that I'm going to do, um,
Yes.
I think making some decisions as the time is going along a little quicker than I hoped for. So we normally play the second game, and
Mhm.
the second game I have been doing so far is called fill in the blanks. Okay,
Mhm.
and what you're going to do is like I start a sentence and you end it with your own answer. But you have to choose three numbers. Okay, so
Mhm.
three numbers between 1 and 10, and they will answer the question that correlates with the number that you have.
Okay, so 3 between 1 and 10.
Yes, please.
You need all three.
You could tell me one at a time.
4, 6, and 8.
All right. She jumped right in. 4, 6, and 8. Even numbers. Okay,
Hmm.
so the worst advice I ever received was,
The worst advice I ever received was,
mm,
I have to finish the sentence.
yeah,
Worst advice I ever received was, don't get into business.
mm, okay.
Mhm.
Nice. Okay, so number 6, loving myself means.
Loving myself means taking time for myself.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you why too, because I have, as female entrepreneurs, we work and work and work and work, and then you are exhausted and you do not feel like, then you lose a lot of zeal for what it is you're doing. And then you say, well, why am I doing this? And those things. You need to create a balance. You definitely need to create a balance, and you need to give back to yourself so that you can continue to give to your family and to your clients and all those things. So a balance is important.
Okay, nice. And number 8, one thing that I would change now is,
One thing I would change now is too much of snacking. I have been struggling for months to stay consistent with a exercise routine, and that
okay,
it's still a struggle.
I understand fully, very much so. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to tell you guys about something exciting that's coming up in my business. So on the 15th of February, I'll be launching the Dynamic Diva Club. And the Diva Club is a club that's going to bring together women in business to build practices, rituals, and habits that will bring us clarity to take decisive action in our businesses with confidence. So what's going to happen tonight is that the first, well, we're going to do a giveaway for three lucky ladies to have the first month free. And it's supposed to be $10 a month to get into the Dynamic Diva Club. Okay? And then the next giveaway for tonight is that Debbie from
Mhm.
Debbie Jollie Coaching is going to be giving away a free strategy session for entrepreneurs. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're interested in having a free marketing strategy session or just strategy in general,
Yes. A
a free
strategy session really so that they can get again clarity on what they want to do in their business. Yes.
minute. So if you want to be able to walk away with this free strategy session, you have to stay tuned and you have to follow because I ask questions. You understand? Good. All right. So let's go into the next segment of our questions. Um, what would you say was, I'm going to shift the question here. Would you say you had to make any shifts in your perspective to take this action? We have Beijing Fam saying that she wants the session, right?
Yes.
So we know that she can pay attention and she's going to answer, be the first to answer the question so that she can benefit from it, right?
Right.
What shifts, or did you have to make any shifts, I should say, in your perspective to start your business or to keep going in your business?
I think you will, I think staying in business again, it's not easy. It has its peaks and valleys.
Mhm,
Um the idea is that you have to be open to the fact that you may not always be making the right decisions, that you may
mhm,
have to change. Business is a combination of external and internal factors. We just went through a whole year of COVID, and we still have more to go. And so
mhm,
your mind, you really do have to get your mind right. And part of that is just being open to the fact that things will not always remain the same, and that you really do have to be flexible.
okay,
Bajan Farm says, I'm listening.
all right. All right, so what was life like for you 5 years ago versus no?
Um, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, um,
Mhm,
5 years ago, I would think that life in general has it's interesting. 5 years ago, my business is not where it is now. It was still in a sort of kind of a gestational period. It's much better now, and I'm having more fun with it now, and it's much more balanced. 5 years ago, I was working like a dog. To be to be honest, I was working like a real dog, and life was not so balanced.
mhm,
My son was younger though, and so I didn't feel so much of the pressures. He just wrote SEA and is now getting into secondary school. So 5 years later, I feel more personally to balance some things. But in
mhm.
terms of business, it's in a much better space.
Nice. Okay, so would you say you had to make a bold, decisive action to create that shift?
To create this, again, I think I make decisions along the way as
Mhm,
things occur. I have big broad goals. I set smaller goals each year, but I try to tell myself you need to be flexible. My
mhm,
initial concept for my company changed as well too when I got that coach. The coach said, let your clientele dictate what your services are, and how you will build and grow your business. And many
mhm,
entrepreneurs say, listen, I have an idea and I want to do this, but can you take that product or service to market? Are there persons who are going to purchase it, or do you have to modify that in some way to fit the need? And
mhm,
so I've always had that perspective that you have to stay open. So as things occur, I try to stay in a place where I'm flexible. So I don't think
mhm,
there was anything life altering thing that occurred. But every time that I felt that I may have hit a roadblock, I would really try to
Mm-hmm.
seek out help and try to be a little introspective in order to
Mm-hmm.
make the right decision.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So, what would you say is one change you had to make about yourself or your life to create the success that you're seeing so far in your business?
I tell persons to stay consistent. I live that.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that I tell clients to do that I wouldn't do for myself. People feel at times because they see a whole bunch of persons on Instagram and they follow all these persons and they feel as soon as you get online you're going to just you're going to make all this money and those things. No, what I've learned in the last 7 into 8 years is that you need to stay consistent, and consistency also breeds good habits, and good habits is what will get you towards the finish line. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't always have to be, you're hitting these major milestones, but
Mm-hmm.
consistency of effort is key. Many entrepreneurs fall because okay, I tried it out for 2 months and it didn't work. And
Mm-hmm.
then they're not around for another 3 weeks, and then they wonder why things are not changing or moving. So I really have in the last 3 years set KPIs, set specific small goals each year, but I stay consistent with whatever I decide to do. So posting on social media, networking with people, getting on X amount of podcasts, doing particular things, those things I stay consistent with because I know that the effort in the long run really does yield the results you want.
Okay. Okay, so far Beijing fam, she's saying that's the wrong thing. She's saying that she loves that, the idea of keeping it fluid, and she's also saying that consistency is her word for the year.
Yeah.
So definitely hitting some
Agree.
you know, aligning with what Beijing fam is thinking. Um,
Yes.
okay. What's the definition of success in for you?
I feel I can tell you 5 years ago I would have defined it differently than I do now, and I feel maybe 10 years from now I'll have a different definition. It is a balance. We work because we want to earn, but really my perspective is always not necessarily a monetary, or I want X amount, but I want a particular lifestyle. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to enjoy the things I want to enjoy. I want to have the freedom to do so. I want to be able to provide for my family. So success to me is really those things. I want to be able to run away in the middle of the week when I know there's nobody on Maracas Beach and go for a bacon shack. That is what fills me, and it has changed because before I would have said I'm very driven and those things, and that is still the same, but the money must manifest the life that I want. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not always a material goal, but really what can allow me happiness, freedom, sense of purpose, that type of thing.
Okay. It's actually interesting because just last week I was having a very um I can't say heated discussion, but a very interesting discussion with somebody about the concept of success. And their view is that pretty much success is being able to be financially free, full stop. And my argument was that success is different for each person. So whereas
100%.
somebody might be looking for financial freedom, another person might be looking for happiness. But his argument actually, you kind of touched on it a little bit. He was saying that pretty much whatever you want in terms of success, whether it be happiness, whatever it is, you don't really get that unless you get the money, because the money is what's going to give you the freedom to do all the things that you need to do. So at the end of the day,
Correct.
financial success is financial freedom, you know?
Yes.
So I mean,
Yes.
he might very well be onto something.
Yes.
The brain still hasn't wrapped around it, because I still believe that everybody has a different view of success. So success for him is not
Correct.
success for me. And I also
Correct.
believe that success is linked to satisfaction. So for instance, if I decide that my success is me making $40,000 a month and I only make $7,000 a month, somebody whose idea of success is making $1,000 a month,
Right.
they're going to look at me and say I'm successful, but for me, I'll be looking at myself and saying I'm not. So it has to be
Yes.
linked to your level of satisfaction and achieving what it is that you set out to do. So I think it's
Yes.
actually, I think it's an interesting topic, because I think
Yeah.
for each person you're going to have slightly different argument, you know.
Yes.
So
I think it's
yeah.
a little bit of both indeed. A little bit of both because I mean at the end of the day we're chasing certain financial goals again as he rightfully said for financial freedom, but it also is what that will look like to you. That might look
Hmm.
like a specific home in a specific location. It might mean you're buying a farm. It might mean your children go to a particular type of school. It really is what it is, but it is tied to certain types of financial goals. Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting that you mentioned where you said money must manifest the life that I want.
Yeah.
Um, I really think that that is key. Um, Beijing Fam is saying some freedoms are not linked to money. And I do agree.
Yeah.
Not every freedom is linked to money, because there are some people that, you know, they don't um have financial means, but they're quite happy and they feel quite successful with what they've achieved thus far in their life. Um,
And
but it was just
life
interesting.
is less stressful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're actually living happier than a lot of people. Because my
Exactly.
argument also is there are lots of people out there who have financial freedom, but then the rest of their life is total
Chaos.
drama, you know? So is that
It's
really
true.
success?
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting debate, I think.
It is. It
Um,
is.
yeah. I have a question here. I had it written down and I forgot to ask it earlier, right? So I'm going to ask it now. Are there
Mm-hmm.
any marketing tips that you think can work for absolutely anyone in business? Or are marketing tips really dependent on the type of business and what that particular business wants to do
Oh,
or
um,
person?
it the market sales and marketing. I would think that the techniques need to be adapted to the
Mhm.
specific organization. But for instance, setting particular sales objectives, setting particular marketing strategies ultimately help every organization. But they do have to be tailored a little bit to each company because you have B2B firms, you have B2C
Mhm.
firms, you know, you have service-based goods. The idea to me is that companies need to be very clear on what they want to achieve. So whether it is to increase the sale of a particular product, if they want to increase visibility, if they want to strengthen their brand, they need to
Mhm.
identify that first because there's such a plethora of things that you can do to achieve those things. But many times companies are not clear or they keep changing it. So you have to be very clear in terms of what it is you want to achieve. And
Mhm.
when you've identified those, then you could identify the strategies to utilize to help you achieve those goals.
Okay. So, um, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Like, so you're saying like any business can have, every business must have sales and marketing goals, but obviously my
Yes,
sales goal and your sales goal are not going to be the same because we have different businesses. Um,
agreed.
what about the importance of, what would you say to persons that come into business and say, well, I have, I'm offering these services, but I'm offering them to everyone.
Ah, that's an interesting that's an interesting one. You get that all the time. Here's the confusion where that is.
Mm-hmm.
Having saying my product is for everyone is very tricky because you will exhaust your marketing resources trying to market to everybody. And really and truly, the data and the analytics say that even close firms or competitive firms can actually see nuances between your clientele and their clientele. So the
Mm-hmm.
idea is that companies also too have to be very clear on who is the ideal client, who is the ideal target market, and you utilize those strategies um, to really to reach those particular individuals. So really, truly, no, I don't think that um, a company could everybody is essentially your market. No, I don't think so.
Okay. So you mentioned the ideal client. So, um, just for clarity, um, what you're saying, I'm trying to put my words together. All right. Everybody needs to have an ideal client. But would you say this means that if somebody who's not in the ideal client bracket comes to you for particular services, should you refuse them or should you still work with that person?
So that goes back to what it is I'm mentioning. We have to, as in any type of business, whether you're solopreneur or small or even a medium or large firms, you have to be, your market will always change, and therefore your customers may also change. And therefore, you have to, at some point in time, especially as an entrepreneur, you will have your ideal client, and then you'll have different types of persons coming for different things, and you have to assess whether it makes sense to serve them. So you might
Mm-hmm.
measure it on a number of criteria. How long does it take to provide that service or that product? Is it profitable enough to provide it to that particular client, right? Are there enough of them to really sustain me? So you have to really look at it in that way, but you shouldn't close it off, because those things are opportunities to know or to realize if that is actually an ideal client and if that particular person can be profitable to my business. And that goes back to me mentioning the same thing with the coach. The coach said, let your clientele dictate your business and your brand. And so there may be some modification you need to do in order to stay relevant and in order to stay profitable. But that is a part of the assessment as you go along your business journey.
Um,
I'll actually give a practical example here. When the last year,
mhm,
when the pandemic hit, I did quite a bit of training, which is face-to-face training.
mhm,
And I was supposed to travel. I was supposed to come back to Babs to go to Grenada, Jamaica, right? All that, and do some keynote speaking. All that dried up, and I had to pivot. And so the emphasis was no longer on I shouldn't say the push was more along the service lines that that actually would be able to sustain me and to sustain my company. So I provided a lot of digital marketing services in 2020, more so than 2019. And so I had to change up my sales, my service mix in order to stay relevant. And what dictated that was really the demand in the market. The demand said persons want to be more digital, they want to be online. And so I had to utilize those things and really get a little more freelancers in on those things to be able to provide that service to my clients. So the market will dictate what you need to do. And you have to be willing to sort of change and adapt once you have assessed if this is really what it is you want to, you want to do and what it is you want your brand to be.
Okay. I have a group of friends that always, their motto was always reiterate and pivot.
Yeah.
Beijing fam is saying love that.
Yes.
I agree. So, and I realize this is actually true. I will admit when I started in my business, I had a particular set of products and I was adamant that I must sell these products because I worked so hard on these products. But then at some point I had to realize and admit to myself that these, even though I might be able to reshape them to suit the needs, the way they are right now are not what people need at this time.
Right.
So you have to be able to see the changes that
Yes.
are happening and
Yes.
shift with them.
Yes.
And I think the people that will have the biggest challenge with something like that are persons who are very resistant to change. And
Yes, and they see it as the baby and they're holding it close, and I understand. I completely get it, but you have to be open and flexible and understand that you could still have the level of success and the recognition and all the things you want. But the marketplace will really dictate it. The clients will say, this is what we really need. This is what we're looking for.
agreed. Okay, so we went a little in the next direction, but just coming back a little bit. Um, what kind of changes to see the success that you currently have in your business, what kind of changes would you say you've had to make in your relationship, whether it be your
In
relationship
my
with yourself, family, friends? What kind of
oh,
changes would you
hmm, it varies again. I think as entrepreneurs, we have our own vision,
say?
and people sometimes don't understand your vision, and so that becomes a natural point of contention a little bit, and you have to
Hmm.
have belief in yourself. You have to be willing to work at it, and you have to be able to filter. Filtering is interesting for entrepreneurs. You have to be able to filter what is constructive criticism, what is something that I need to change, versus people who just don't understand your goals, your dreams, your purpose, and they are trying to kind of to put the doubt there. So it's a tricky road, and some relationships do have to get left behind, and some you continue to manage because they have been a critical part of your development. My parents have helped me to really grow and to mold, primarily because they take care of my son. So
Hmm.
when I had to work long nights, I had to lecture, I knew I was comfortable because I knew he was safe. And so although at times I might say, gosh, they don't get what I'm doing, but they are part of the journey because they help to facilitate it. They mightn't understand, they mightn't get everything, but they are a key part to me being who I am and being worry free when I have to deliver, to deliver
Hmm.
to clients.
Um, sorry. That being said, what would you say what is the importance of having support systems, and perhaps what are the different types of support systems you would say that as a business person you would need to have?
You need if you have a family and you're balancing that, you need a strong partner who is there, they don't necessarily have to to completely understand your dreams and goals, but they need
Mm-hmm.
to support you in your journey. Um, and involving again your children as much as possible is important to me because it helps them to create a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what seeds you're planting as you are involving them in this journey. So I think you should. Um, in business, I think everybody needs a coach at some point in time, and investing in the right one is important. Because you do, no matter how good you think you are, you do hit some you hit some blocks, and therefore it's important to have a coach that will help you to battle it through, and a person who has been through it. For me as well, I've had anxiety as a child, who grew up with a stutter. So I actually in 2019 also hired a kind of productivity coach,
Mm-hmm.
which also helped me. So the relationships, it again, you have to assess in your needs, right? What do I need, and we need emotional support. So sometimes we need some mental clarity. We need guidance. And
Mm-hmm.
so you bring in person strategically, and that in itself is not always easy, because not everyone that is around you will understand. Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone around you will give you the help you need. And it's a tough road, but those are some key strategic um players you need in your life and you need in your corner.
It's true. Actually, I was just thinking that most of the time when you start your own businesses, you tend to feel that persons who do not see things the same way you do are not supporting you. But
Hmm.
over the time when you look back, there are different kinds of support, different ways in
Correct.
which people can support your business, or support you as a person in business. Um, Very much like you, my mother, and my children's other grandmother, um, are key players. Anytime I have to go anywhere or do anything, they're going to be the persons who are going to be there to look after um,
Absolutely.
the children. And then um, also, sometimes when people come with different opinions, I wouldn't say you just change everything because of somebody's opinion, but acknowledge that there might be some level of truth to what it is they're saying, and it might be something that you need to look out or
Yeah.
look into what they say. Um,
Absolutely.
and we need to stop being so resistant to what everybody's saying, and try to find a deeper understanding of why these messages are coming to you, so to speak.
Yeah. That's why I say
Yeah.
you have to be able to filter it. You have to be able to know when that's really some good criticism, and maybe I need to adjust something, versus a person that is just outright negative, and they don't want,
Yeah.
and they're not. But you have to be able to filter that.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Very much so. Okay, so you said, well, I don't know if I missed any. Actually, here's my question. So, for whoever is interested as an entrepreneur in a free a free strategy session from Debbie Jolly Coaching, I would like to hear you tell me what Debbie says, or two of her key support systems, or the two key support systems that you might need to have in business, or when you're in business, I should say. And while I wait to see the responses in the chat, right, I had a question for you and it slips me. Let me see. Oh, you mentioned that when you were young you had a stutter. So is that the reason that the business is the
Yes.
stammering communicator? I always
Yes,
wondered
actually.
about that. I was wondering,
Yes, actually.
Okay.
I
Nice.
use it as part of my branding. I
Mm-hmm.
I stammered terribly as a child. Anyone that is around me long enough will still pick it up. Um, but yes, I stammered terribly as a child, and people always said, you can't be the president, you can't be the prime minister, you can't be a journalist, you can't be a public speaker, you can't be certain things because, well, you have a stutter. So, and then I don't know, I grew up as a child that was naturally into theater, music, arts, and it makes sense that I'm doing marketing now and branding and advertising because it was always a part of me. But in order to kind of to be able to be in that kind of extroverted world, I had to
Mm-hmm.
be able to command this voice. And so I did a lecturing is one of the main reasons I got into lecturing
Mm-hmm.
primarily to be able to command the voice. But the stammering communicator is like an oxymoron because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I do. That's I'm a communications strategist as well, and it is, you know, it's different. I think persons will not expect it. So I use it now just to sort of brand and to show persons that, you know, we are not, we all come through life and we have things that will challenge us, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be something that blocks you from your goals or your dreams. So
I, I I think that's an awesome message because I think number one, I think it's awesome that you have embraced um, what could have been something that I don't want to say could have been traumatizing as a child,
mm-hmm.
but something that people, like you said, there's so many people that said you
Yes,
couldn't do it, and if you believed in what they were saying,
thing
then you wouldn't be doing what
absolutely.
doing what you're
And
doing, and you have to.
lots of persons who stutter are like are, you know, they they just kind of curl up because the mere fact
Mhm,
that you speak, you get that negative attention, and you don't want that. So
mhm, mhm.
they tend to become a recluse. So
Yeah.
yes, I
And,
try to really tell persons you could battle through anything, you know. You just have
mhm.
to make up your mind that you want to get to the next side.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely awesome that you overcame that. I mean, people don't know what obstacles other people face in the world, and sometimes the obstacles, um, what might seem like a small obstacle to one might be a major hurdle to somebody else. And
Yes.
hi, African Heritage Foundation. Um, I think it is key to be able to show people or show not only people, but show yourself how you can really move forward in the face of adversity, so to speak. Um,
Yes.
I think that's really awesome. And I
Thank
also think
you.
it's awesome that you have included it in your
Yes.
branding as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I
So
think
it
that's something
becomes
that
a
helps
point
with
of
you.
discussion.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it keeps you grounded as well, because you don't forget where you
Yes.
came from,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely.
Um, okay, so I did see Beijing Fan make sure that she won this prize, right? So Beijing Fan said coaching and accountability. Yes, she did mention that. I know that I was missing one, but one that really, um, the one that I have is a strong partner and a coach, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
Um, so congratulations, Beijing fam. At the end of the session,
Mm-hmm.
um, Debbie, you can communicate with her. And
Sure.
before we close, my head is so bad. Wait. Debbie, can you tell persons where they can follow you on Instagram to find out any more information about your business?
All right, great. So on Instagram, you can find me at Debbie Jollie. You just search Debbie Jollie, DebbieJollie. You will see the stammering communicator there, and you'll see lots of my images there, so you can find me on Instagram. But I also have a website on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So just Google Debbie Jollie, and you'll find me.
Okay, thank you. Um, in terms of the other price, for the dynamic diva club, what I'll do is I'll take that onto the social media page because we have very small numbers tonight. Um, so I'll take that onto the social media page throughout the course of this week and next week, and we'll have some giveaways to persons to join the Dynamic Diva Club and have their first month free. Um,
Yes.
so before we go, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and participating in tonight's session. And Debbie, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time tonight to be interviewed for the session. I think it was very, very inspirational. Um, I learned a lot. So very educational, very inspirational. And I look forward to being able to interact with you in the very near
Absolutely.
future. Yeah, I really
Absolutely.
enjoyed this. So thank you very much for coming through, and thank you everyone for joining. Congratulations to Beijing Fam for winning your prize tonight.
Yes. Patient
And
fam.
look out for any more information and for the promotion of the Dynamic Diva Club throughout the coming week. Have
All
a
right.
great night, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.